This is a film study in reaction to the news that the Seattle Seahawks traded away two of their 2026 draft picks, fourth rounder and fifth rounder, in exchange for Rashid Shaheed, a fourth-year wide receiver who actually is approaching his career high in catches in 2025, 44 catches on 66 targets, 27 years old, 66% catch percentage, only 2 touchdowns in 2025. In addition, his yards per catch way down, 11.3 for this season. Previously, in reverse order, 17.4 as a rookie, 15.6 in his second year, and then 17.5 last year, which was obviously a chaotic season for the Saints from a quarterback perspective. Of course, Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator there. He knows Rashid Shaheed extremely well. With Cooper Kupp's recent injury, this move just only makes sense to me. I'll have some more comments at the end. Again, Shaheed is a guy who has 2 touchdowns this season, 12 career touchdowns. At one point in time, had tremendous value as a kick returner. Initially was an undrafted free agent in the NFL. Week 1, 2024 will show some of his big plays and how I think he can help loosen up the defense, number one. Number two, you have proven film of him succeeding against high-level talent. In this case, it's Horn, the outside corner for the Carolina Panthers. And this concept is one that you see repeatedly on the film from the Saints, especially when Kubiak was there. Number 2 receiver, or the inside guy, number 1 being Shaheed, number 2 being the tight end, I think that's Johnson, running essentially at the opposite shoulder of the middle of the field safety. In this case, trying to occupy that safety and basically open up the deep shot to Shaheed. The speed that the Seahawks can put out there now with JSN, who's having, to my mind, the best season in the NFL right now as far as a wide receiver from an efficiency and a production standpoint, as well as being really clutch. And then now Torrey Horton, the rookie, just scored 2 touchdowns against the Commanders, and they only add to that group. This is a great deal, in my opinion, for a 4th and a 5th round pick. You're getting a guy who has the ability to win deep, but also do so against great talent. And that's a huge element to the game that is perhaps sometimes misunderstood, or I should say misdiagnosed, meaning if you can beat really good corners one-on-one, especially deep, that threatens their pride and, in fact, can open up some other elements for you and your teammates. Still 2024 film. Shaheed will be spot shadowed in yellow down here at the bottom side of the screen. Another deep shot. I think this is week 2. This should look extremely familiar. 21 personnel group, motion across. Eventually will basically become a max pro situation where you've got 2 receivers initially releasing into the route, one of which is Shaheed. The same thing that Kubiak and Sam Darnold are executing consistently on a week-by-week basis here in 2025. 2 high safety structure. I don't know that I expect Darnold to take these types of shots with Shaheed immediately, but it's the same system, same terminology, same adjustments you would assume. And in this case, you've got a ball thrown to Shaheed really before he is open, operating against a 2 high safety structure or 2 DBs deep, and he beats them, over the top. Perfectly thrown ball by Derek Carr, who, of course, had a very weird and unusual 2024 campaign before retiring. I believe that this season, 2025, is the only one that Shaheed falls under contract for the Seahawks now. I think 2026 is a void year, so he'll be tremendously motivated to try to, perform some of the positives, in my opinion. Same offense, same scheme, presumably, the same terminology. If that's all true, then he fits in immediately. Now, probably early, at least this first week, I think against Arizona, less snaps, but and possibly some design stuff. What I really am excited about for the Seahawks offense is the ability to interchange him and JSN at times and almost open up more opportunities for JSN than we've seen so far. When I say more opportunities, I mean more shots down the field with less safeties hanging out over the top. If you look at this past week's game against Washington, multiple situations where the Commanders are basically putting a safety over top of JSN, and from a simplistic standpoint, essentially doubling him and forcing Sam Darnold to go somewhere else. Well, now if you're going to utilize that strategy as a defensive backfield, you've got at least 2 guys, Horton and now Shaheed, who can beat you deep at any one point in time. This is the same concept, 2024, so Kubiak's still there. The only difference is now it's Olave. I think in this offense, the way that I'll refer to it, Olave is or was their JSN in 2024. This season, it's a little bit different dynamic. He, of course, does get a lot of targets, but Shaheed has 44 catches on 66 targets. But you see the same dynamic or same type of scheme repeated as what I showed against Carolina. The number 2 receiver, they stacked, they being Olave and Shaheed. The number 2 receiver essentially is going to occupy the deep safety, and that clears out the possibility of a deeper route for Shaheed. Now, there ends up being some pressure on Carr here, so he's unable to get the ball out in a fashion that actually takes advantage of that. The point is the conflict that's created by the routes, and with Seattle's pass pro being a tremendous strength so far, particularly out of 12 personnel groupings, or even 13 for that matter, this just looks like giving Darnold more options and more weapons to choose from. When I say more options to choose from, I mean more proven guys who can make plays at the NFL level. When I spoke a moment ago about the interchangeability between JSN and Shaheed, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Essentially an over concept. They've used this multiple times in 2025 already. Whether it's Cooper Kupp or JSN or even Horton running across the field underneath of or fitting late behind a vertical route. In this case, it's Olave from the bottom side. It'll be a 25-yard gain. Again, it's 21 personnel under center play action, so very similar to what we've seen so far this year with Kubiak's offense in Seattle. Great job of giving these guys a pocket or giving Carr a pocket. Wide open Shaheed. It could be Shaheed running the clear out route and JSN running the over concept, or what I refer to as an over, or vice versa. Something to try to give the defense different looks. Obviously, most of these plays should look extremely familiar. In my opinion, Shaheed showing up just allows them to stretch the defense, not just vertically, but also horizontally out of multiple different personnel groupings. Basically, you could take JSN off the field for a play or two and get the same thing accomplished from a vertical standpoint, threatening the defense and opening up some of these underneath routes, kind of like I just displayed. I think it's a little bit of a mischaracterization to say that Shaheed is only a deep threat. Of course, he does have a lot of big plays in his career, 12 career touchdowns, like I said, at least one of which is a special teams. This is this season against Arizona. Earlier in the game on a deep ball, Will Johnson had intercepted a ball that was intended for him, I think probably placed on the wrong shoulder by Spencer Rattler. But in any case, up to the top side of the screen, Shaheed's going to run basically a deeper out concept, the tight end into the boundary, a shallow out, and then Olave, again, think JSN in the current iteration of the Kubiak offense. Of course, this is from 2025, running underneath as a potential third option. So providing another weapon for Kubiak, one that he's familiar with and he knows what the guy can do, I think gives him opportunities to build in some plays off, if you will, for JSN, so someone else can contribute. Also, I think it safeguards the ceiling of the season if Cooper Kupp's injury is in fact worse than it was first described. Against Arizona, again, now this is a 4th and 1 where both of these guys at the bottom side are playing really soft and off coverage, but that could be a byproduct of the speed and the threat that Shaheed offers on any particular play. Olave up to the top side of the screen. Rattler's not going to look to him at all. A little bit of a slot slant here. Route not really run to 100% speed, but in any case, Shaheed just sits down underneath of it on a 4th and 1 to make sure he gets the first down. Very interesting to me that Olave's on the field, and on some of these I pulled from NFL Pro, I pulled 3rd and 4th down plays, and a lot of these 3rd and 4th down plays that Shaheed is actually the guy that's being targeted or looked at initially. Same game, moving on to a different game, the 49ers 2nd and 10, and he's going to be matched up against Renardo Green. When I watched the film of Renardo Green in college at Florida State, all I wanted was for him to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. He was one of those guys I looked at and thought, he is really miscast. Some people had him as a 3rd-round pick. That seemed incredibly low. I think San Francisco grabbed him mid-4th round, maybe around the 45th pick. I could be wrong. But in any case, another win against high-level talent in the NFL from Shaheed. A vertical up the left sideline. This is this season, obviously, so Kubiak is not calling the plays here. But in any case, Rattler is looking to the top side. I wonder if this could allow Kubiak to basically move Horton to the slot more. Or the other option is put JSN in the slot more. Basically interchanging those guys, not just from a route concept standpoint, but where they line up pre-snap. And I think that puts a lot of stress on defenses, number one. Number two, makes them almost in some of these third down situations have to declare their coverage in a way that it gives Sam Darnold, great pre-snap information. And another thing to mention about Shaheed from him that what I've noticed is on deep balls, he tracks the football about as well as pretty much anyone I've seen on film in the last couple of years. Finally, against the 49ers, a short touchdown pass before I'll give you some of my summary thoughts. This is in the third quarter. I think this pulls the Saints to within 16-14. It's a pick concept with the outside tight end basically stepping down to seal the defender lined up over Shaheed, and Shaheed will quite obviously get one of the easier touchdowns that he's probably had in his career. Faking the handoff, this is really straight out of the Kansas City Chiefs playbook that they used in both of their Super Bowl wins against the 49ers, making it look like a zone read, and then the defensive end running down the line of scrimmage to basically take away the give to the running back. Quarterback then booting out to the edge with the attached pick route off of it to clear up that space for Shaheed to run onto. Number one, you get another playmaker in this offense with the added benefit that the implementation or the install is going to be a whole lot quicker because he's familiar with the offense. Him and Kubiak, of course, have a shared language, a way to communicate terminology, number one. Number two, he's fitting into a system that is already succeeding. You don't have to have Rashid Shaheed in order to score a lot of points and in order to win football games. Look at what Seattle has done so far in 2025 on offense, in particular, the play-action pass game. You see a lot of the same hallmarks in some of this film that I showed you from 2024 to what Kubiak has Darnold executing at a high level in 2025. 70% completion percentage, 16 touchdowns already for Sam Darnold. How could it get any better? Well, the front office goes out and gets a proven deep threat, a guy who can make plays, not just on offense, but on special teams as well. He's got an all-pro season under the books, I think his second year in the NFL, 2023. I support the trade. I know that it leaves a large gap in Seattle's 2026 draft. I believe they have picks now in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then none thereafter up to round 6. I could be wrong there. Feel free to correct me in the comment section if you wish. This, to me, is one of the better acquisitions at this trade deadline because not only does it raise the ceiling of the offense, but also the floor. Worst case scenario, Kupp is out for a long period of time. Shaheed is quick to acquiring another receiver of similar talent who didn't have familiarity with Kubiak's system would still be a boost. The implementation or his ability to slide right into the offense at various positions, I think, is what pushes this over the top for me and makes this an A-plus trade. You're more than welcome to have a different opinion than I do. Their pass pro ability, the play action that Kubiak is utilizing to put Darnold in high percentage situations, maybe there'll be some teams come out and play more nickel defense from a too high structure and try to prevent big plays. I think if that's the case, then Kubiak will counter and run the football more. Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet might go through a 2 or 3 or 4 week stretch where they put up, more yards per carry and more overall yards per game. In any case, adding another weapon, an experienced one with big play capability, only makes sense to support it from a fan perspective. I'm on the outside looking in, and for me, I really love this trade for the Seahawks. Let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comment section, number one. Number two, let me know what you think of the plays that I used to try to illustrate that point in this film study video. Finally, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this look at Rashid Shaheed and what he could bring to the Seattle Seahawks offense immediately, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.